Boker Tov, today's daf is daf Nun, number 15, Baba Kama. As we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Son Basar B'Shipya, yesterday we had the machlokes when it comes to digging a bore, not like the next mission we're going to have on today's daf, a regular case of digging a bore where the kid learns in school is if you go into the public street and you open up a bore, you're chayav if the animal falls in there and dies, right? This says shor v'larim chamar v'lakelim, but you're chayav. That's the regular case. And according to Rabbi, everybody holds to that. The machlokes is if you have your own bore, it belongs to you, but you're mafkir the rishus that people can come into your property. Are you chayiv there? That's how Rabbi learned. Rabbi Yosef says no. The everybody agrees that if it's bor b'rishus yochid, everybody says you're chayiv, meaning it's your bor, but you allowed people to come in. You're mafkir the area so they can come in. Don't forget, if it's your bor in middle of your rishus, you don't have any permit. I could dig whatever I want. If I want to dig a hole in the middle of my yard, and you have no permission to come in, and you fall in there, it's your problem. Your animal falls in. Who asked them to come in? Maybe I'll dig one like that for the cats to fall in. Yeah, okay. I can't get out of this. You understand? But
they can get over.
Yeah, I'll make it so deep they can't get out. So there, everybody agrees. It's mine. I have no problem. The problem is if I mafka the rishus, it's my bore. The bore belongs to me, but I'm mafka the property. You can come in there. That's everybody says you're chayav according to Rav Yosef. And the classic case of a bore, you dig a bore b'shus rab is only according to Rabbi Shmuel. According to Akiva, you're not chayiv in that case. You're not chayiv in that case. It's in the public area. No, just telling you, there it's just telling you that if you dig it, all right, if you dig a bore b'shus rab, according to Rabbi Yosef, you bore b'shus rab. Shmuel says you're bore b'shus rab mechayiv. It's talking about just opening up. Rabbi Akiva says no. There it's telling you about the kind of a bore, but it's only a bore, even if you open up a bore in Rishus, that's yours and it's near the Rishus Rabbim, but it belongs to you, then you're chayav. But in a case where it's in the Rishus Rabbim and belongs to Rishus Rabbim, he says you're not chayav there, which is a strange thing, but that's how Rav Yosef interprets Rav Akiva. So again, Rabbi Shmuel said Rav Rishus Rabbim is chayav. And Rabbi Akiva says, according to Rabbi Akiva says, no, you need to tell you that you should, if you open it up, you should cover it up, and if you dug it, you should fill it in, but you're not chayav. Shmuel says so that's how they interpret the pasuk. But the idea that you're chayav on a bor b'shus harabim itself, that's only according to Rabbi Shmuel, the way Rabbi Yosef learns. But the Sephardic, the way we understand is according to Rabbi Yosef, the next mission will only go like Rabbi Shmuel, not like Rabbi Akiva. Meisvei, we're 3 lines into the wide lines of the Gemara. Meisvei, you dug it in Rishus Rabbim. Listen to this. You dug it in Rishus Rabbim like people do here. Yeah, the opening is in their Rishus, but they dug it underneath the public street. You're putter. It's not a right thing to do. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to dig on Rishus Rabbim, right? Maybe the whole thing will collapse one day, last game. But people do it. You're still putter. You shouldn't do that. You don't make a hollow cavity. Is it okay for me to go through my basement and dig a hollow cavity under the public street? Maybe they won't catch me, and maybe I'm not injuring anybody. But long term, who knows what will happen? I'm not supposed to do that. You're allowed to, right? Still, but you're putter. But if you dug, call it a pit, ditches, a pit, a ditch or a cave, b'rishus hayachid. But if it's open to the Rishus Rabbim, even if it's in the pit is on your property, but the opening, that's the key. Open Rishus Rabbim, then you're chayav. If you dig a pit in the Rishus Hayachid, in your own place, but it abuts the Rishus Rabbim, you go in the people who dig for foundations, then you're putter, because foundations you're allowed to do. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Mechayiv says, you're still chayiv. Sorry, you have to make a partition of 10 tefachim high. Jesus regular adam, or at least you move it further away from the way people walk. Jesus regular from Pesach arba tefachim or arba amos. So you have to either put up a mechitza there or put it far away. You shouldn't do it right abutting the Rishus Rabbim. But the Tanakhama said if you did it for a foundation, it's okay. Time and illusion. The reason why it's mutter, reason why you're potter is because with potter, of course, have a losser. The reason why is because you do a foundation, halav illusion. It wouldn't be for Lushin to be chayav. How money now? Who does this price go like? Bishlam la Rabba, according to Rabba, who learns what? That Rabbi Shmuel says that you're potter on Rishus Yachid, you're chayav, it's in Rishus Rabba. And again, Rishus Yachid, that you're mafka the Rishus, but the pit's in your Rishus. So Reish Rabbi Shmuel, the Reish that says you're potter, again, Yechofer Bar Rishus Rabba, Pischal Rishus Yachid, it's opening on the Rishus Yachid. Why are you potter there? You're potter there, according to, so the Tanakam will say, according to Rabba, the Reish goes like Mishmal, the Sefer, Bakiva, the Sefer that says you're chayiv, if it's not for La'ushin, if it's not for a foundation, you're chayiv, that'll go like Rabbi Kiva says, you dig it in a private area, and you mafka the Rishus, that'll go like Rabbi Kiva, that you're chayiv. El Rabbi Yosef, according to Rabbi Yosef, Bishlam a Sefer, the Riakol. The Sefer, everybody will agree that you're chayiv, because it's Rishus Yachid that you're mafker. El Reisha money, who is a Reish go like it says that you're potter. If you dig it, again, the Reisha said that a chofer bar b'shus harabim, who pisl b'shus yachid, you're potter. Why are you potter if it's open in b'shus harabim? Why? Because it goes like El Reisha money l'Rabbi Shmuel l'Rabbi Kiva. Everybody says if you dig a pit in b'shus yachid, you're mafker to b'shus harabim. According to Rabbi Yosef, everybody says that you're chayiv in that case. Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, the machlok is only a pit in the b'shus harabim. Rabbi Yosef kul dervei kol. No, the whole thing goes like everybody. The Reisha shelo hifker, very simple. Shuso v'lo rishus boro. In the Reisha, the reason you're potter is why? Because you weren't mafkir the rishus at all. And so you dug it in rishus hayachid, or is in rishus rabim, but the opening was in rishus hayachid, and you weren't mafkir that area, the area of rishus hayachid that people can get into. Like I said, it's like digging a hole in my own yard with no permission to anybody to come in. Therefore, I'm potter. Okay, so that's how it'll work out. So he'll say, Amar Yosef, it goes like everybody. Everybody agrees in that case that you're potter. Amar Ashi and the Seifa, everybody will say you're chayiv. Because in the Seifa, we said if it wouldn't be for La'ushin, and you're digging a pit in Rishus Hayachid, that you're mafker, the area for Rishus Rabim, because people can walk right up to it. In other words, you're digging it, your hole, it's your hole, but it abuts Rishus Rabim, so people have permission to go there. Everybody will say you're chayiv there. Amar Ashi, Asher, the Kimtel Rav Yosef, Divrei Kol. Now that you say that Rav Yosef will say, according to Rav Yosef, this price will go to everybody. LaRabba Nami lo took. You don't have to say according to Rabba. He said the originally we said Bishlam LaRabba, the ratio will go like Shmuel, who says that you're potter on Rishus Yachid if you did it Rishus Yachid you're mafkir. And the Sefer that says you're chayiv if it wouldn't be for foundations goes like Rabbi Kiva. Now you also don't have to say according to Rabba that it goes like a machlek on the ratio of Shmuel. Since it's the ratio of Shmuel, Sefer not Rabbi Shmuel. The time of Lushan, the reason is because it's for foundation. Halav Lushan also chayiv. Why? You go on Dabrachav. Why are you chayiv there? According to Rabbi Shmuel, even according to Rabba, why you chayiv there? He says you're mafkir. The answer is that you spread it, you opened it up, and you went further into Rishus Rabim. You did get Rishus Rabim, everybody say you're chayiv. In other words, you not only did you abut it, your private, you built it in Rishus Yachid, and it abutted Rishus Rabim, but you spread it out too far. You widened it out into Rishus Rabim, and that's why you're chayiv. If it wouldn't be for the foundation, Meisvei. Another kasha, hachol for bar Rishus Yachid. You dug in Rishus Yachid, do pischal Rishus Rabim. There you're chayiv, right? Because the opening is in Rishus Rabim. The pit goes according to Rishus Rabim. Fine, you're chayiv there. Rishus Yachid asmuch Rishus Rabim. If you build it in Rishus Yachid near Rishus Rabim, you're potter. So Bishlam l'Rabba kulir b'Shmuel. Very good. He goes like a B'Shmuel that if you build it in Rishus Yachid, you're potter. All right. If the opening is in Rishus Rabim, you're chayiv. El Rav Yosef, according to Yosef, Bishlam Reisha, Rabbi Shmuel, the Reisha that says what? That if you build a chaver bar b'Rishus Yachid, pisl Rishus Rabim mechayev, because the opening is in Rishus Rabim, goes like a B'Shmuel, El Seifa. So you could say that the Reisha goes like a B'Shmuel. Why not like Rabbi Kiva? Because Rabbi Kiva says if you build a pit in Rishus Rabim, you're potter. A strange thing. It's Rabbi Kiva goes against our Svar the way Rabbi Yosef learns the Pashup Shot in the pasuk. El Seifa that says what? That the Seifa says if you build a Rishus Yachid next to Rishus Rabim, you're potter. Money learn B'Shmuel Rabbi Kiva. According to everybody, say you're chayiv there. Speaking where you built it for our foundation, and therefore you're allowed to. So they can weasel the way out, even though Rabbi Yosef seems the stranger shita. Let's say you dug a pit in the Rishus Rabim, right? You dug it, or you opened up, and you handed it over. You gave the keys to the mayor. I dug this for the public use. I did it for the Tzorach HaRabim, and I handed over to the Rabbah, and now the city took it over. I dug a big pit and I gave it to the city. You're part of chaver pasuk v'lomasam. I didn't give it. You're chayiv because if I dug it myself and I didn't tell anybody about it. Nechanya was a great tzaddik. He would dig He would dig wells. Let's say we'll call it pits and ditches and caves for the Ole Regalim, so they should have water. That's what he would do. He would dig or open up pits, etc., open up excavations, and give it over to the tzibur. When the Chum heard about it, they said, this man has fulfilled this mitzvah of doing something which apparently it seemed like a takal, it seemed like an obstacle for the people, but the truth was that he did this halacha that if you do it for the tzibur, it's okay. This is more halacha zu v'sulo. This is the only thing that he accomplished. No, he even accomplished this thing as well. Tanrabanan. This story with Nechunya Chofer Sichem, Chofer Boris, he was called, that was his name, Nechunya Chofer. They called him the well digger. Tanrabanan. Ma'isa Bito Shon Nechunya. There was a story with his daughter. Chofer Shichem, this Nechunya Chofer Shichem, who dug the ditch. She fell into a big pit, and she was in danger of death. They came and they told Reb Chanina ben Dosa, and he said the first hour, Shalom, she's still okay, don't worry. I guess they took a long time for Hatzalah to come, and he said, don't worry, the first hour, okay. Shnia Amalem Shalom, she's still okay. Shlishis Amalem, also, she's out of the pit already. How did he know? Amullah, then they told her after, it's Mielcha. How'd you get out of the pit? Who brought you out of the pit? Amalahem. She told him when they had brought her out, a ram came to me, and Avram Avinu, an old man, was leading him. This is Rashi says that's the Elo Shel Yitzchak, the same ram that Avram was nechaz besvach b'karnov. This is the same ram. Amulo. So that's what she said. She said, "This he got me out of the pit. This old man brought me with a ram, brought me out of the pit." Amulo. Then they turned to Rav Chanina ben Dosa. Naviata, what are you, a prophet? You know all this? That's the same. I'm not a prophet, and I'm the son of the prophet. This is what I said. Something that Nechunya, who goes to such trouble to take care of for the tzibur, he digs all these pits and caves for the Ola Regalim, for water and for protection from the sun, etc. This thing that he would do, his own children should stumble on something like that. They should be killed by a pit. That this is something that he stands for the good of, if he does it for the good of humanity. Amar Bacha, Afal Pikain, even so, Meis Benova Sama, his own son, this is what Nechunya's son died of thirst. Shenemar Uspivav Nisara Ma'o. What does that mean? Around him, around the Rebbeinu Shalom, there's like a great storm. What does that mean from there? Malam Shekadosh Baruch Hu Medaktikim Spivav. He is careful. He's particular with those around him. I feel like we saw with Moshe Rabbeinu, like we saw with the other great tzaddikim, that he was mocked, but even on a small thing, Hashem was particular with them. Even kuchut asara, even like a thin hair. That's the lashon of nisara, right? Nisara means a whirlwind or a storm, and it also is like a lashon of sara, of a hair. He was medak with them, and therefore, even though he was a great tzaddik, he was so particular. The littlest thing, he was punished with Rahman on the death of his son by thirst. Mechunya himself said from here, or Reb Chanina on the side of Mechunya Mehacha, Kel Naratz B'Sod Kashem Rabba. We say that in the Yom, I think on Wednesday. Kel Naratz B'Sod Kashem Rabba, the God who is revered among the great holy, V'Nora Al Kasuv, and his he is feared all those around him, or he's like held in awe around those around him. Amar Chanina Kol Omer Kadosh Baruch Hu Vatron. Another thing that Rav Chanina says, whoever says that Hashem he gives in, he's not so makbid if you do something wrong, he's not going to be so particular. He's going to give in. He's going to be lax in fulfilling the punishment. Yutru Chayav, his own life will be abandoned. It's like Hefker. His own Shenemar Hatzur Tamim Polo, the rock. It was complete. His work is complete. He does mishpat with everything. The pasuk says, "Erech hapayim, v'loksiv erech hap." Why does it say erech hapayim? Like his nose is long, so to speak. Like he's patient. He waits time. Why does it say erech hap? Why erech hapayim? Double. It says v'loksiv erech hap. Erech hapayim tzadikim l'shoam. Not only does he delay in meting out punishment to the sham, but also in giving reward to the tzaddikim that they'll only get their share after a long time or in olam haba. Okay, so that's the story with the Chum and Akan and digging pits. Tanabanan, lo yisako odom mershuso, sako lesson of stoning. You shouldn't remove stones from your wall or your private property. In other words, a lot of people like they throw their garbage out into Rosh Hashanah. So you shouldn't do that. Lo yisako odom, you shouldn't remove stones from his own field or his own wall or whatever into Rosh Hashanah. Ma'aseh, but I'm going to story with the person Shahim Masako Meshus Rosh Hashanah. He was throwing stones from his area into Rosh Hashanah. A pious man met him. Amarlo Reka, empty-headed one, fool. The public property that you're throwing property is always going to be public property. You're always going to own that. So why are you throwing that into your own property, Rosh Hashanah, from an area which is not yours? And we said, what do you mean it's not yours? It's his yard. Yeah, but it may not always be his yard. Your yard may be your yard today, may not be your yard tomorrow. But Rosh Hashanah is always going to be your yard. You're going to have permission always to go there. So why are you throwing stones from a Rosh which is not yours, from property which is not yours, to a Rosh which is yours? Legal up. He laughed at him. What do you mean, not from my Rosh? That is my Rosh. I'm throwing it from my Rosh into Rosh Hashanah. L'yamam, eventually, Nitzrach Limkor Sadeh, he had to sell his field, and he didn't own it anymore. He was walking on that same Rosh Hashanah, and he stumbled on those stones that he had personally thrown out. Amar, now I understand that pious man told me a good thing. He says, don't throw out stones from an area which is not yours to an area which is yours. At that time, the area was mine, and I was throwing out Yerushalayim. Now that the area is not mine, comes out retroactively that I threw out the stones from an area which is not mine into an area which is mine. That was the story. Now this is a classic case. Classic case of digging a pit. That versus bore, short bore mava hever. What's bore? That's bore. You dig a pit. Rosh Hashanah. Hachofer bore Rosh Hashanah. V'nafal atocho shor chamor. No shor fell in there. You're chayiv. You have to pay, right? As we learn. V'nafal shama shor chamor. The pasuk says, and we darshan shor v'lo adam chamor v'lo kalim. That if kalim fell in there and broke, died, which means they broke where he was going, and you're not chayiv. If he was injured, that's different. But if he died, you're not chayiv. Okay. Now, according to Rabbi Yosef that we learned yesterday and today, this mission is only going goes like a bishmal. Whether you're talking about a pit, shiach, whether you're talking about a ditch, the difference is a pit is round and small. Shiach is a ditch which is long and narrow. Ma'ara is a covered cave. In other words, it's beneath ground, but there's a cover. Charitzin is like a ma'ara, and these are also kinds of ditches. Another kind of a ditch. This is more like it's also square like a cave. In other words, it's big and very, but it doesn't have a cover. Ne'itzin is where it's small at the bottom and large at top. In other words, it's got a wide top and a narrow bottom. Okay, in all these cases, you're chayiv. It doesn't make any difference if it's a round pit or it's a rectangular pit or a square pit or ma'ara. It fell in the all chayiv. Okay, why say bor, which indicates a round pit, It says ma bor sheyesh bo kedei lahamas asar tvachim, just like a bor. It's got to be, in other words, in order to be chayiv, if a shore or a chamor or an animal fell in there, it's got to be 10 tefachim deep. If it was less than 10 tefachim deep, as we'll see, and it didn't die, and it died, then you're not responsible because then it didn't die because of you. And any of these kinds of ditches or things that you fell into, if it was 10 tefachim deep, then you're chayiv. Otherwise, you're not. It was less than 10 tefachim deep. And fell in there, mace, putter, because your pit didn't kill him. If he died if he stumbled on a little thing on a step, which is not very deep, and he died, it wasn't the step it wasn't your pit that killed him. But he could get damages. In other words, if he was damaged, he broke a leg, then you are chayiv. But if he died because of it, you're not chayiv unless it's 10 tefachim deep. What's the idea of 10 tefachim deep? Is it because that's big enough to get a good blow, or is it because the animal suffocated? He had no air in there, bad air, unhealthy. Amarav. It's for the unhealthy air, for the stifling air. He suffocated. And if it's 10 tefachim deep in a pit and the animal died, he died because he suffocated to death, not because of the fall. The fall didn't kill him. Oh, he hit the ground? No, he's not chayav for that. Yes, maybe it's a grama. you caused it. You know, it was an indirect thing. But if the ground wouldn't have been there, as we'll see. Let's say it was lined, as we'll see in a minute, with foam or with woolen pads. Then it wouldn't have made a difference, right? The chavata, he says, chavata karka. If it was lined or wasn't lined, it hit the ground. That the ground killed him, not you. In other words, when the Mishnah is talking about the Torah talks about a boar, talking about if it's 10 tefachim deep, because then he will suffocate. All right, he will suffocate to death. But Shmuel says no. When it says that if you dug a pit 10 tefachim deep, a pit or a ditch or whatever, and it was 10 tefachim deep, and the animal fell in there and died whether he suffocated to death, he may not have had any broken bones or whatever, or Koshkain, certainly if he fell by the blow, because the blow killed him, he crushed his abdomen or whatever, and died of a heart attack or whatever it was, you're chayiv there too. So that's machlokes between Shmuel and Rav. Rav says it's because of the suffocation, and Shmuel says it's the suffocation, and certainly because of the blow. So maybe if Shmuel holds it's both for suffocating or for the blow, so maybe it's only for the blow. Torah says a boar. Even if it's full of woolen pads, meaning like foam, you're still chayiv. Now there's no blow. You fell and you had the cushion. He didn't hurt himself on the blow. Still, you're chayiv, you're bored, because there you could have suffocation. Now, what's the difference between Rav and Shmuel in a practical case? Rav says it's only because of the suffocation. Shmuel says it's because of the blow or the suffocation. If you didn't build a pit, you build a mound 10 tefachim high, and the animal walked on that and fell down. Right, it fell down. Rav, I go over l'machayiv, not chayiv for that, because there's no suffocation involved. He's outside in the ground. There's a mound there. He's not falling into a ground. You could say in the ground, there's no air down there, right? If you go down, we can understand that. Maybe 10 tefachim we can't understand, but certainly a pit that's far down, they got to go down there with oxygen, right? So you can imagine because you're chayiv for that, either for the blow or for even if there's no suffocation involved, you're chayiv for the. My time in Rav, what's Rav's reasoning that it's only suffocation? It says it fell in. If you walked on a mound and you fell down, that's not falling into something. You fell into something. Shmuel, what's the girsa? Shmuel, derech nefila, Shmuel v'nafal koldu. And any way you fell, either you tripped, you walked up on a mound, you fell down the mound, or you fell into a pit. Tanan. Mishnah Zim can't remember boar. Why did I say boar? Our Mishnah says ma boar. It was if you're chayiv on any kind of a ditch, a cave, anything you dug, even if it's not a round pit. Ma boar. Why does it say boar? Why does the Torah say kiyiftach lishbor, kiyich lishbor? Ma boar sheish bok de lahamas, because just like a boar is enough to, it's got to be 10 tefachim deep, otherwise it's not called a boar. 10 tefachim deep. Avkol sheish bok de lahamas asar tefachim. It's got to be 10 tefachim. Bishlam l'shmuel. Avkol asuyegova. I understand. Avkol includes even a mound. Even if you didn't make a pit, you made a mound 10 tefachim. That's what it means. Just like a pit is 10 tefachim deep, anything that's 10 tefachim deep, even if you built a mound that's 10 tefachim high, and it'll fall down 10 tefachim on outside, you're also chayav there. El Rav, Afkol Asimai. What does it include? He doesn't hold of gova. He doesn't hold if you build a mound that you're chayav there, because he holds you only chayav for suffocation. So what does it mean? My lasuya means the other thing. Lasuya chritzin v'nitzin, to include these other kinds of ditches that we said. Like a chritzin is like a ditch, which is like a cave. It's like a square, big square, doesn't have a cover. And the itzin is where it's wide at the top and narrow on the bottom. Says Gemara, what do you mean to include that? Chritzin v'nitzin behedik tanilu. The Mishnah, look back at the Mishnah, in the third line of the Mishnah, it said, is echad for bor, shiach umara, chritzin v'nitzin. Then it says, imkein loman emar bor. Why did it say bor? Just like bor, stil hamas is also tzavachim. So according to Shmuel, it says, okay, fine, that includes a gova. According to Rav, what does it include? He says chritzin v'nitzin. Chritzin v'nitzin were already mentioned before. Chritzin v'nitzin were already mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah. Tani b'hara mafarish. He first said chritzin v'nitzin. Then he said, how do you know chritzin v'nitzin are also chayiv? Because just like why does it say bor, just like a bor is enough to kill, the same thing with chritzin v'nitzin, it's 10 tefachim deep in order to kill. The hani kulu diktani lomi. What if you mention all these different kinds of formations? This is round. This is a shiach is a long and narrow. The charitzin is like a cave that's squared, but it doesn't have a cover. And the itzin is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. What do you need all? Tells you need all. Ditana bor. If you tell me bor havimina bor asara hu de ispahavlav. A bor which is 10 tefachim deep there's no oxygen. In other words, he's suffocating in there. There's hevel. Why? Mishum the cotton karicha, because it's small and it's round. Aval shiach the orach, but a shiach, a ditch which is long. I think with 10 tefachim deep is not enough to have let's call it diminished oxygen. You want to call it that unhealthy air, diminished oxygen, because it's long. So maybe there 10 tefachim wouldn't kill him, and if he died, he wouldn't be chayiv for that. That's not enough to kill him, because according to Rav, the hevels would kill them. Itana shiach. If you tell me the long and narrow ditch, having been a shiach asar who this bavla. Okay, it's 10 a long and narrow ditch. There's enough lack of oxygen in a ditch of that form. It should be the cotton because it's narrow. It's just small, but it really means narrow because it's long and narrow. Abu ma'ara demaraba, but a cave which is squared off, you think the air has more chance to circulate there. And basar less buhabla. And if it's 10 tefachim deep, there's not enough of a lack of oxygen. And if you tell me the case of a cave, basar who it is babla. If it's 10 a squared off cave that's 10 tefachim deep, there's enough lack of oxygen there, mishum de metalla, because it's covered. Because the cave, by definition, it's covered on top. Aval charitzin the low metalla, but a charitzin which is the same measurements, let's say, as a cave, it's squared and it's not covered, it's uncovered. Even if it's 10 tefachim deep, it's like a deep thing, but it's open on top. So there's no lack of oxygen, and that wouldn't kill him. And therefore, if an animal died, you wouldn't be chayav for there. Okay, kamashman yoar vitana charitzin tell me havi mina charitzin asar hu dis bahavla. Again, there if it's 10 tefachim deep, there's not enough oxygen. Why? Because it's like a fully squared off hole in the ground. Because there's no more air on top. There's no more space on top than at the bottom. It's like a perfect square deeping down with no cover. But the Eitzin is a pit that's wider at the top and narrow at the bottom. Maybe there's not enough of a lack of oxygen because in the deepest part it's very narrow, so the air doesn't get a chance to leave. In other words, there's more air there. Kamashma, in all these cases, 10 tefachim deep is enough to kill, even because of suffocation. According to Shmuel, suffocation or the blow. But according to Rav, even suffocation there, and there's right teaches me all these cases. Tanan, Mishnah said, if it's less than 10 tefachim deep enough, and your shachma fell in there, umes and died. Potter, why? Because it wasn't your pit that killed him. Your pit wouldn't kill, either because of suffocation or because of the blow. The imhuzik bow, but if he was hurt by it, if the animal broke a leg, you had to take him to the vet. The imhuzik bow, chayev. Then you're chayev to pay for the damages it could do, because even on a step, an animal could fall, or a person could fall and hurt himself, but he wouldn't die. So nafal tachashor chamor mace potter. Why you potter? This is musa. Nafal tachashor chamor. If it's less than 10 tefachim and mace, the potter my timer. Lav mishim bless bechavata. Rav said it has nothing to do with the blow. The blow is from the ground. You didn't do that. Your problem is that you made a pit that doesn't have ventilation, and the animal died because of suffocation. Now he said if it was less than 10 tefachim deep and he died, you're potter. My time, isn't it? Because 10 tefachim deep, if it's only 5 tefachim deep, let's say 5 or 6 tefachim, there's not enough of a blow. Smash, the reason that you're chayiv when it's 10 tefachim deep is because of the blow, not because of the suffocation. Lo mishum bless buhavla, because there's no lack of oxygen there. In other words, if it's only 5 tefachim deep, there's no lack of oxygen, and therefore, if he died, he didn't die because of a lack of oxygen due to you. He died because the animal had a heart attack or whatever. So how could you say if he was damaged by chayiv, there's no lack of oxygen? Why do you say if he fell into a pit that's only 5 tefachim deep, you're not chayiv if he died, but you are chayiv if he did damage? What do you mean the damage? You just said there is no lack of oxygen there. There's not enough of a lack of oxygen for death. There is enough of a lack of oxygen for damage. In other words, he might have suffered some, the animal had some lung infection or whatever, and there wasn't enough oxygen for him, because of that he got damaged and suffered some injury. Torah, there was a story with an ox, Nafala Risa, fell into a channel of water, right? The Risa Dedoli, he fell into, Rashi says over here, a yaor, like a little river, Dedloi Mashka Soros, a place where they used to, it's like a channel of water that they used to irrigate the fields from there. Interesting Rashi is an interesting Rashi here. Rashi says, Mashka says, it's an amma deep. Now, an amma deep, right? Ulefichach inikras amma samayim. That's why it's called amma samayim. Amma samayim, we always have a channel because the amuka amma brachavam. That's why it's called amma samayim, because it's an amma. Use these channels of water usually in amma deep. And now, an amma is less than 10 tefachim, right? So it's an amma deep. And I'm why that's what's called amma samayim. He said, okay, so he fell into this little pond or channel of water. Now what happened was the owner immediately took him out. He was afraid that the animal was going to die because maybe he was injured. And he shechted him, and he shechted him right away to eat him because he was afraid he wouldn't live. If he was, maybe he was a treifa, maybe he was mortally wounded. So he shechted him right away. Tar for Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, no, it's treifa, you can't eat it. Why? Because the rule is if an animal fell in this sort of a manner, called risuk evarim, that his things have fallen apart, that his limbs could have fallen apart, something could have happened there. You have to either, if the animal can stand up and walk away, that's okay. Then he's kosher. If not, you have to wait 24 hours. If he survived 24 hours, that's a sign that he wasn't mortally wounded. This guy didn't wait. He was afraid that the animal was going to die. So he shechted. Nachman says, no, it's straight. Omer of Nachman. If the owner of this animal, this ox, had taken cover the kimcha, a small amount, the measure of flour, but also ton of medrash, and gone to the base medrash and was taking a little bit. See if he would have invested a little bit in a few loaves of bread, so to speak, and gone to the base medrash and asked the shaila, he could have said right, and he would have learned in the base medrash that the rule is imshasam eis. If it lasted 24 hours subsequently, it's kosher, right? Lo after the Torah, he wouldn't have lost his ox. I paskin out that you can't eat the ox. Maybe it was you shechted a treifa. We don't know. Had he taken a little bit of bread, a kav, and taken it to the base medrash and asked the shaila, he would have learned that wait 24 hours, and if it lasts 24 hours, you wouldn't have lost your animal. You could have shefted it then. And he lost an ox. The shabbat is worth a lot more than the few loaves of bread that measure several measures of alma. Now over here, it's less than 10 tvachim deep that he fell into, and there was water there too, presumably. I don't know, but he says obviously Nachman says the animal could have died based on that. So even though so there is an inyan of a blow, even less than 10 tvachim according to Rav Nachman. Eser Rav Nachman, what do you mean? Our Mishnah said, "Hey, plus it was less than 10 tvachim, enough shor chamor umeis," and he died. Potter, your potter, my time. Alad mishum bless bechavata. If it's less than 10 tvachim, there's not enough of a blow there to kill him. And you apparently held that, that if he fell into something less than 10 tvachim, there is enough of a blow. It says, "Lo mishum deles behavla." The reason in the Mishnah why we said if he fell into less than 10 tvachim and he died, you're a potter, is because there's not enough suffocation. There's not enough of a lack of oxygen there. Like Rav, maybe there is enough there. He held that a blow, even in less than 10 tvachim, he fell in there, could have killed him. But we go like Rav. The reason why in the Mishnah you put is because that's not enough to suffocate him if it's less than 10 tvachim. The same kasha. Why did you say if he was ham, she was chayiv? There's no lack of oxygen. If it's less than 10 tvachim, there's not enough of a lack of oxygen to kill him, but there is enough of a lack of oxygen to hurt him. But again, Rav Nachman held that even less than 10 tvachim of a blow is enough to kill him. So he went like Rav. He went like Rav in the sense that, or Rav says that the chabata we're not looking at. Rav says that chabata is karka olam, but that's in terms of chiyah. But in terms of enough to kill him, it's mashma that chabata would be enough to kill him. That maybe he held that you could have less than 10 tvachim could kill him, but you're not responsible for that. So the issue is our mission is dealing with responsibility. Rav Nachman was talking about could the animal die, and the animal could die even less than 10 tvachim, depending how he fell in. All right, tomorrow's Daf Yomi will be on the podcast. On Sunday, we're going to start from the Mishnah. Go get all the way up to the Mishnah on Nun Beis and Ralph, about 12, 13 lines down on the page. That's where the tomorrow's Daf will take you to. Shabbat Shalom and an easy
Shabbat Shalom, beautiful. Thank you.
Rumi,
yes.
I put together, because a few people asked about, helping Chava. So I put together a thing with some, some financial information there about, her account number and stuff like that. If you're interested.
Yes, send it over.
Only if you want. Yeah, there's no.
Send it over. We talked about it this morning. Yeah.
People asked, and
asked.
Laser gave her money and stuff. So because of that, I put together something. So I'll WhatsApp it to you. If you
Thank you. Okay? Very good. Excellent.
maybe your kids